about anything but corporate America. And when this gentleman back here says, I spent my own money, I'm betting Alex put money in his pocket to send him to conventions and golf outings in corporate America. That's how they operate, and they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. So I'm just urging every senior here to get the word out. Medicare, Social Security, death panels. That's what they're really all about.
Someone separate those two gentlemen. Or at least start charging money for the fight. I paid $120 for not as good a fight last month. By the way, I'm so glad you brought that issue with regard to Medicare, because that doesn't just apply to seniors, but also to young people. I have an autistic son who is a recipient of Medicare and will be forever. Those programs are very, very important to a lot of people. And if you're going to balance the budget, I imagine one of the first places they're going to cut is there. So absolutely right. This is a life or death issue for many people. That being said, let's move on to our next presenter here. Deedra, please give me this right. Abboud. How did I get this wrong? Because, all right. Fellow attorney, our team-based attorney, using her platform as a U.S. Senate candidate to give voice to the marginalized, to promote progressive ideals, and to fight for the future of all Arizonans. Come on in.
Without sunglasses. I went to law school and took my oath as an attorney and swore that I'd uphold the Arizona and the National Constitution. But I had a love for the Constitution way before I ever went to law school. It's a beautiful document. It's meant to be a living, breathing document so that it can grow with us as our ideas and progress grow. That's why we have more amendments, including more people. This particular convention is concerning on many levels. One is it appears to be are we going to have a constitutional convention every time a different party's in the majority? Because that's concerning. Also, the state legislators want to create rules for how the Congress operates. I have a radical idea. Let's make Arizona so awesome that we have the credibility to tell the Congress how to work things out. Because being 46 or 48 in education is not showing leadership.
No.
One of the things that is proposed, it's basically a dog whistle in order to have it about balancing the budget. We keep hearing about balancing the budget, and we keep seeing that these budgets that come out are taking money away from our social safety nets and making sure that people can't just not pull themselves up by the bootstrap, but just don't have boots. Yeah. On top of that, they are giving the money to corporations. We're not getting it back. And it's not going to balance the budget either. So it's just not true. Yep. It's just something to make people think. Because logically we think as people, if we pay down our debt, personally in your house, if you pay down your debt, you will have more money.
Right.
But I did estate planning, and I will tell you, we also have the idea that as you get older, your tax bracket lowers. And that's why you want to have your 401ks and your IRAs at the end. But you also have less deductions because you've paid off your house and you have no debt and you have no children. All those things that would have saved you money are now gone. So in economics, there's a place for debt. Yes, we always need to be worried about debt, but we also have to worry about progress and how to invest, because you may have to take out student loans to go get educated, but it's an investment so that you can also go and have more money. We could work on that too. It's a little messed up, but the idea, the concept, that is the concept. Another thing that they want to do is they want for the majority of states to sign off before you can raise the debt ceiling. Let's talk turkey. We just had to raise the debt ceiling because of Hurricane Harvey. Do we really want the bureaucracy associated with the majority of states having to decide whether or not victims of a hurricane can have aid? Do we have time? We don't. So these things are very, very concerning. We're literally paying from Peter, or borrowing from Peter, stealing from Peter, and by the way, we're Peter, to pay Paul, which is large corporations that are taking advantage of us and not having the infrastructure necessary for us to hold them accountable. They're using our infrastructure for their profit. They're using the roads that we built, the bridges we built, the internet we built, the phone system we built, the educational system that we built in order to have more successful business and make more profit. I'm all for that. But then they get huge tax breaks that mean that they're not paying back into that investment, and they're making profit off of our investment but not feeding back into it.
Yeah. Nice.
Fair wages. So another amendment that they're talking about after this one, if they actually do get the convention, one of their favorite ones, is that state legislators will then get to decide who the U.S. Congress members are instead of voting. Okay, so our job is actually to hold Congress accountable. We as voters, that's our job. And if we could stop the gerrymandering, we could do our job.
Yeah.
If we could stop the voter suppression,
Yeah.
we could do our job. And if we could get rid of dark money, we could do our job. We need less bureaucracy and more solutions. That's the job you're getting paid for. That's why we go to the voting booth, to put you in. And if we actually want to change things, we don't need to change the Constitution. We need to elect better people. And I'll leave you with one more thing. If we're so interested in amendments, I got one for you. Let's ratify the 19th one that we've been waiting almost 45 years for. If we can't ratify the 19th Amendment, then how do we think that we're actually going to ratify any amendment, especially for relief for people like Harvey?
That's right.
Woo, that was good.
Hands off the Constitution!
You know, I had a thought. Maybe I've seen an unrepresentative sample. This isn't scientific, but am I going to guess that our group is going to be a lot more diverse than their group? We've only seen 4 or 5 of them, but they all even dressed alike. I don't think we're going to find a lot of people who aren't white and male and Christian and straight. And here's the thing about it is, I just realized when my sister Abboud was talking that, you know, we don't have a problem with amending the Constitution. I'm a big fan of amending the Constitution. Some of my favorite amendments. The 13th, the 14th, the 15th. I don't even mind the 26th or the 27th. But here's the thing, though, is that all those other amendments, and maybe I'm wrong here, were amended, as Senator McCain would say, through regular order. Right. We got a majority of the Congress to get together to do this versus trying to do some backroom thing where we meet in an off-season election in a city like, say, Arizona, and wear black suits in a room and do the little Men in Black thing with the memory and try to get people to approve it. The thing that's scary about that idea of 38 states is 38 states does not have to constitute a majority of us. If you take out California, New York, Illinois, Florida, and Texas, we're talking about half the people, all right, in those, you know, literally 35% of the people could make a change in the Constitution. That we're going to fight that. We're going to win. Amen. In the meantime, though, we have Representative Asala Blanc. Currently represents the 26th district in the Arizona House of Representatives, which includes North Tempe, Northwest Mesa, portions of South Phoenix and the Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian community. At the age of 6, Casella's family immigrated to the U.S. in pursuit of the American dream. Her parents encouraged, promoted, and supported their daughter's support of higher education. A proud product of the Tempe public school system. Public school. Go ahead, girlfriend. She was the first in her family to attend the university, received a Bachelor of Science degree in Family and Human Development from ASU. 2016, she was elected to serve the community where she was raised. You go, girl. As an elected official, she became the first formerly undocumented woman to serve in the Arizona legislature.
Undocumented and unafraid. Those are incredibly powerful words. Undocumented and unafraid, but I have to say, I am afraid. I am afraid. I am afraid. So I'm not an expert in the Constitution. In fact, I'm going to say that I received a crash course on it during the legislative session as a member of the Federalism Committee that heard these bills. I am not an expert and cannot give you a play-by-play on every article, but what I am an expert in is my experience, and my experience sitting in the Arizona State Legislature for a few short months, and I'm going to highlight why this is a critical and important time in our lives. We have people that unfortunately have only one interest. Their self-interest. It has nothing to do with the people's interests, and that is true. How I know this is because all we have to do is look at Arizona and look at one specific bill that passed, well, many bills actually, because I have to tell you, I received lots of emails from Republicans, independents, caring Arizona folks who did not want anything to do with the redoing and undoing of our Constitution. And I also received a ton of emails from people who did not want a voucher to pass. And why this is important and why money plays a role in politics is because if we are authentic and if we are real, what's going to happen is these folks who don't represent us, they only represent their self-interest, will then go to wherever, whether it's here, Washington, D.C., and they're going to fight, and they're not going to fight for the people, they're going to fight for corporations, they're going to fight for the billionaires. We are already seeing that fight on the ground happening right now. We are seeing it with the fact that we have Zinke, who is trying to undo several of our lands that have been protected, and it has nothing to do with states' rights. It has everything to do with profit. Profiting and taking out our Earth's precious metals for profit, for corporations, for that 1%. That's what this is about. Forget the 99%, they don't care. It's obvious. Because when we passed this budget amendment thing, as stated, the governor